G'day folks, welcome back to episode number 3 of Euro Mining News already. We're up to Wednesday with the host John Franco. Now Monday we had nickel news out of Finland. Tuesday we've had some gold news out of Finland. Now today we're talking rare earth elements from West Finland. So today we've had an announcement come out of Prospech Limited, which is an ASX listed multi-commodity explorer. It has a market cap of 9.7 million, so junior, and they have projects across both Slovakia and Finland that they're chasing. Today's announcement concerns the Korsnas rare earth element project in Western Finland. So Prospech basically took control of the remaining 51%. They owned 49% at the start of last year, took control of the other 51% of the Korsnas project and 2 other projects in Finland from Bambra Oy, which was basically a subsidiary of Prospech in July 2023, where Jason Beckton sits on the board, acts as CEO or managing director and CEO of Prospech and sits on the board of Bambra. Now, since they've got full control of that, they've been basically looking into this Korsnas project big time. So Korsnas was originally a lead mine, primarily, with only a small amount of rare earth concentrate being extracted in its final years. It's been closed since the 1970s, so 1972, following the decline of lead value, and also rare earth element values were only a fraction of what they are today, following a heap of technological advancement since the early 70s. So nowadays those rare earth prices are way higher, and basically it's come back on the radar. Korsnas's viability has come back on the radar, and they're looking at its prospectivity again. So they started off with a bunch of data accumulation, checking out the old stuff, and around May last year they started relogging the historic drill core from the lead days, which was stored with the Geological Survey of Finland in their core libraries. And basically, straight off the bat, they noticed that there were potential zones of rare earth element mineralization in the carbonatites, which hadn't been sampled at all. And they soon realized that if there was no obvious association with galena or lead sulfide, so lead mineralization, then it just wasn't sampled because they weren't targeting rare earths, they were targeting lead. So this selective sampling has basically allowed for a huge opportunity that could have been missed, which Prospech can now take advantage of by going through and using that old core, sending those samples off and getting free drilling basically for those unsampled sections. Now, Korsnas mine had its own TSF, which is a tailings storage facility. Basically, for anyone who's not aware, a tailings storage facility stores the mine tailings, which is basically the waste material that is discharged from an ore processing plant. Now, because they were processing lead primarily, the rare earth elements are considered a waste product, and they're sitting in that TSF ready to be taken advantage of. So it is a bit of a, it's an easy win basically. So Prospech's got a few options. They know there's rare earth elements in the area. They can either start drill testing for some potential new rare earth elements targets, which always comes with a large degree of uncertainty because you've got to trust your geophysical surveys, and it's just you're trying to find a new deposit. It always comes with a degree of uncertainty. Or they can hit the easy win and basically just drill test this TSF, check for rare earth elements, and if they're there, generate some early cash flow straight off the bat, because the TSF material doesn't need to be explored. Basically, exploration drilling is very minimal. Doesn't need to be mined, doesn't need to be trucked, and it doesn't even need to be crushed and processed because it's sitting there ready to go. You just chuck it back through, target the rare earth elements in the flotation, and hey presto, you've got yourself some rare earth element oxide to sell to the market, or concentrate, sorry. So this program that they've recently just finished and they've sent off to the lab consisted of 64 holes with an average depth of 9 meters. So not very deep, pretty cheap as far as looking at an entire area. Now, if I just jump into the announcement here, you can see they basically drilled the TSF out in a grid. So there's been no selective areas where they're targeting. They just want to get a good idea of the entire area because you're not exactly sure. It's so old where each level of tailings is sitting. So grid is always a good way to run it. Now they've done some duplicate holes. They've done some MET sampling, really good work QA/QC wise, because they want to get a JORC compliant resource on this, basically from this drilling. So I always like to see early MET work and good QA/QC. Now, while this lead mine was running, air processing procedure was nothing fancy. It was pretty common flotation, so there shouldn't be any weird acids used or anything hectic. Obviously, lead needs a bit of extra care. However, nothing too drastic. If Prospech does want to retrieve these rare earth elements, they can basically just scoop up that TSF material, put it back into the flotation tanks, and they can produce a rare earth element concentrate. Remembering that the first 8 years this ore was processed, the rare earth elements weren't targeted at all. So they're thinking approximately 366,000 tonnes of ore has likely been missed, and those rare earths are just sitting there ready to be scooped up. The grades that they were getting at the end when they did start processing it averaged and fluctuated, however, around 0.75% rare earth oxides. Not super high, but also not low either. Now, additionally, majority of this rare earth element concentrate that was produced by the mine actually wasn't even sold. So they've got the majority of this preserved in a separate stockpile, which they're going to auger, make sure that it checks out. They are getting the grades that they think they're getting, but basically just punch an auger hole straight into the side of this stockpile, and hey presto, you've got yourself a stockpile ready to go. So it's good news for them. Now, as far as targeting this thing, it wasn't just as easy as the grid, go, log everything as TSF. Obviously, they've got a couple of different generations of TSF material that have gone into it. Now, the reason for this is, unfortunately, it's just a matter of life. The mine closed in 1972, but the mill was still there. So basically, a nearby nickel mine has trucked its nickel ore there at a later date and put that ore through the TSF, adding to the TSF volume. So the way I look at it, there's basically 3 different types of TSF material that they would have had to log. One, the oldest layer of tailings, which may contain grades similar to what they got once they did start processing the rare earth elements, which never went through any type of rare earth element extraction. You've got your second type of TSF, which was that slime that's produced following rare earth element extraction being implemented. And 3, you've got your nickel tailings, which are likely void of all rare earth elements. But you never know. Jeez, I can't start to think of how many companies that drilled for gold and hit nickel, or drilled for lithium and hit rare earth elements. Like, this stuff happens all the time. So who knows? Maybe that's got some rare earths in it as well. So, like I said, an average depth of those holes was 9 meters. 523 samples have been dispatched for assay, and the plan is to generate an initial resource estimate from this initial round of drilling. Some metallurgical samples, like I said, have been retained for met work, which I love to see. I assume that they're not processing those at the assay lab straight away. Going to make sure that those assays come back first. It all checks out. They've got economic grade there before they waste that money on metallurgical sampling. Now, before they did kick off this drill program to keep investors happy and secure, they did do 4 grab samples from near surface, which came back with 4,139 total rare earth element oxide. Now, they didn't say the ratio of heavy rare earth to light rare earths, which I would have liked to see because it is important. But hopefully we'll be able to see that in their next announcement when they come back with these results. That's all for today, folks. So thanks for tuning in to episode number 3, halfway through the week. Who knows what we've got tomorrow? We will see. Just a disclaimer as well. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. These are simply my own personal opinions as a geologist and that are going into this. So thanks for tuning in, and see you all again tomorrow.